Hey all, Phoebe Rizzo still at it. I've had some time off of work, so I've been able to crank out a lot of these. So expect a few more over the next couple days. Anyway, I've been kind of spending some time going through my Shudder. Over October, I saved a bunch of movies that I had been meaning to see, so I've been kind of going through that list. Every so often, movies will disappear from Shudder, so I'm just trying to clear that out before anything I really wanted to see vanishes. Though I really wasn't worried about this one going anywhere since most Shudder originals stick along. And, well, here we go. Now, this one is VHS 94. Now, this one is the fourth movie in the VHS series, which I have seen all of, though I've only reviewed the first one, I think back in January, if I recall, which I give a very favorable review to. I really enjoy the VHS series myself. Now, I haven't reviewed number 2 or VHS Viral, the third one, but those reviews probably will happen at some point. But here we go. Since none of these are directly connected with each other, you don't really need to see one to watch any of them. Pretty much, there's always a wraparound segment, and which is an excuse for creepy old VHSs to be played. It's a horror anthology series, and none of them really directly relate to each other. Now, this one, the wraparound series, this segment, which is referred to as Holy Hell, seems to be FBI agents that are doing what they believe to be a drug bust after receiving a strange tape that had some weird cult-like activity that they took to be drug-related. And as they raid the place, they don't find anyone there, but they find a lot of staticky TVs and a bunch of people with their eyes plucked out that has probably been self-inflicted. And as they go along, some of the TVs will kick on and we'll play one of our videos. It's standard fare for the wraparound segments. Most of the wraparound segments are just an excuse to get to the real meat of it. And this one, it's okay. It's better than Virals. So, and it's been so long since I've seen VHS 2 that I can't really remember that one. VHS 1's is probably the best, with just breaking into a house to rob a guy and finding piles of VHSs and strange things start happening. That was effective. That said, the segments overall were either all of them were interesting at least, and a couple of them were actually had some. Then one of them gave some decent chills, and another one was just fascinating. So, yeah, overall the segments here were pretty strong. The first one, Storm Drain, involves news reporters looking into an urban legend of the Rat Man, which is supposedly living in their sewers. And as they begin looking into it, well, they encounter some strange things under the streets. I'm going to try to avoid doing any directly spoilers or any of them. This segment, there is some tension, particularly towards the middle of it. It does break pretty quickly, though. But there's some interesting visuals here in Storm Drain, and yeah, I was along for the ride on this one. The next one, The Empty Wake, is probably actually, I'd say this one's my favorite. It was just a very creepy film. This one, it's a woman's hosting a late night wake, in which then where she's left alone in the place waiting for the wake to begin. But the body was in really bad shape, and much of its head was ruined. Anyway, no one shows up. Hence the title, The Empty Wake. And she finds it really strange. I mean, there's a storm brewing, so she tries to write off as that. But as the hour gets later and strange things like swearing she hears knocking from inside the casket and the power flickering on and off, there is some creepiness here. And there's a lot of tension in this one, and I really liked it. I had no idea where this was going. I had a few guesses, and one of them, yes, was correct. But I really enjoyed this one. The next one, The Subject, Probably my secondary favorite one. This one's an Indonesian short film, actually, involving a crazy doctor who's determined to fuse man and machine, and it's about him trying to make his creations work. And his subjects aren't exactly willing. It's people he's kidnapped and is turning into these robot-human hybrids that look monstrous. Which was interesting, but it really gets going when we get to when it starts going first-person perspective from a woman who got turned into one of these things, since her head's a video camera now. And when the place gets raided by the government, the doctor gets killed, but they want to destroy his monstrous creations that they don't see as human anymore, and she just wants to survive. So going from her perspective of just trying to stay alive, and it almost becomes like a first-person shooter. It was an interesting segment. And the last one was Terror, which shows a bunch of a militia group gearing up for what seems like a terrorist attack, but apparently they're after something a bit more supernatural. And yeah, that's pretty much all the main beats for this one. So the militia one is, for me, was kind of the weak point, because they really portrayed them as the whacked out, overly patriotic, beer swilling redneck types, I guess. And it was kind of hard to get behind them, even if they were trying to do something good. But that was probably the weakest segment for me. I mean, it wasn't bad, and some of the designs on the monsters that show up were interesting. It's probably the low point here for us, so it's kind of a sorry one to go out on. Now, from the MacGuffin scale, I'm going to give this one about a 7 MacGuffins, I think. There's a lot here, and most of the segments are worthwhile. It was a stronger entry than VHS Viral was. I really can't... It's been a while, and I can't directly recall VHS 2 very well, so I can't say if it was better than that one off the top of my head, but a lot of the segments here do compete pretty well with the original VHS. I mean, there are some on VHS that I love to death, though, so this one has some entries that are better than the weaker ones on VHS, but overall VHS is still stronger. In the new system, VHS would probably be like an 8. This one's a good 7, though. So, 7 MacGuffins. Alright, that's going to be all on this one, so there you all have a good night.